Right, welcome. I'm the Digital Foundry channel. Let's talk about the Microsoft conference, shall we? The so-called Xbox Series X reveal. Now, let's be honest, I was quite looking forward to this. Microsoft had hyped it up quite a bit. We were supposed to see the power of the X. It's supposed to be the most powerful console ever made. It was a reveal that was supposed to show us why anyone should be buying a Series X come this winter, this fall, this holiday season. And what did we get to see? We did not see a single game running on a Series X, a console that's due to release in just over 3 months' time. Not a single game was running on a console. The games they showed were running on some sort of PC, equivalent PC. Now I don't know how they can have an equivalent PC, because as far as we know the Series X runs off RDNA 2, AMD's RDNA 2. There isn't a PC out there that has RDNA 2. It hasn't been released. It doesn't get released by AMD till later this year. So how can they have an equivalent PC running RDNA 2 when RDNA 2 does not release? Does not make sense. So basically all we got to see was showcases of games that are coming up and games that are available on Game Pass. We saw nothing of Series X, absolutely nothing. It is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not even going to go on about the mess that looks like Halo Infinite is, how unfinished it looks. Not just pop in, but pop out. I don't know if you noticed at the start, after he shoots a few grunts, he walks up, the grass starts disappearing in front of him. He doesn't like walk and meld through it. A lot of people saying the graphics are lackluster. I thought they looked quite clean graphics. Maybe that's the art style they're going for, but no, they're not mind-blowing. The lighting wasn't very good. And we're reaching that point now in video games where the graphics, the actual pixel art or the graphics of the pixels are in diminishing returns. So the thing that makes a game look outstanding and really gives it a shine is more sort of animation and especially lighting. Lighting is the key to a very good looking game. So let's transition that with what Sony has showed us with their showcase about a month or so ago. So we got to see, we didn't get gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn, but what we got was in-game engine footage, which, if you can't have gameplay, that's the next best thing, in-game engine footage. And we saw, especially, I don't know if you can remember it, if you've seen it, the scene where Aloy is running through, Aloy is on the mechanical horse type thing, and she's running through the grass, and you can see the grass all swirling. That's all in-game engine. So that's representative of what the game will look like, and that's outstanding. We also got gameplay of Ratchet and Clank. That was gameplay, and that really did show what is possible using the new SSD. All footage was shown was running on a PS5, apart from they did put a little asterisk at the start. They started off with Grand Theft Auto 5, which was on PS4, the footage, which is getting an update for PS5. The rest of the show was stated this is running on a PS5. So this is a console that they've had the same amount of time with as Xbox Series X has had. I mean, Xbox Series X announced their console way before Sony announced the PS5. You know, they came out with the Christmas show with Jeff Keighley, one of the game shows, and a big reveal, and they had the box shown, they had some sort of footage of, looked like a football game, a car driving game, something, some other bits of flying over water. So from that time you would have thought, well, they must have got something else they can show us after the, you know, they've showed us all this, the Series X. I think, yes, I remember they did show us Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. Again, we don't know if it was a game trailer or in-game footage. We believe it's in-game footage. Who knows? Nothing as of yet we've ever seen is running on Series X. As far as I'm concerned, I'll have more chance of getting a unicorn this Christmas, because this Series X just seems to be like a mythological machine that apparently exists but no one's seen it or seen games running on it. No one knows how to program on it. Nothing we've seen runs on it, and yet we're supposed to all lay down however many buckaroos they're going to charge on this one. We're all supposed to lay down money for it. It just does not make sense. Whereas the Sony message is sort of, here's our games, here's our console. Yes, we're running to our own time frame. We won't get pushed into sort of revealing before we want to reveal. So they revealed when they wanted to reveal, and what they revealed looked very polished. Their games looked like they were running well. I know Ratchet & Clank had a few little hitches, but you'd expect that. This is technically, you know, it's still got, from the time they showed it, it's still got 5 months left to iron those out. And of course, Sony is still updating the software inside the PS5 with internal updates, and also DevBot kits have also been changed over. We know this because all this has come out from certain devs. So they've had, I think they've had 2 or 3 different dev kits for the last couple of years. Well, I wanted to make that one scene, but I'll have to cut that a little bit. So, moving forward, where does this leave Microsoft, other than it's more of a games as service, a Netflix of games? For that's all I can see it being now. I own a One X, it's over here. Probably can't see it. I own a PS4 Pro. I don't get to play my One X very much. Do you know why? It has the worst user interface ever designed. It has a user interface. I don't know if it was designed by the guy that did Windows Millennium, because that's what it feels like. Sony's had a fairly easy to use, and fundamentally, if you want to find something, you can find it pretty quick on their user interface. It's an adaptation of the PS3 interface, which back on the 360 day, I would say the Xbox 360 had the better interface, but they kept messing about with it. They went from the blades, which are very simple, and they wanted, you know, simple and easy to use. Those blades, they were lovely to use. And then they went to these stupid avatar things that we like. Oh, at first they were a little bit of fun, and then they started putting backgrounds on avatars, and it just slowed the whole system up. But overall, it wasn't too bad a user interface, even by the end of the 360. It was getting worse over time, and I think this getting worse over time is something that Microsoft seem to be doing with their consoles. The OG Xbox, fantastic console, I haven't got a bad word to say about it. Really good. I love the way you could put your little music CD in, record the CD, and then play that back while you were playing the game. Back then, that blew my mind. We didn't have anything like that on consoles. Now it's just like, yes, okay, you can stream whatever the music streaming services are. I don't use Spotify, I believe it is. You can stream them from your console, so that's not a big thing anymore. The party chat system, that was pretty much an Xbox 360 thing. It wasn't until the launch of PS4 that Sony actually got that. Well, I'm not technically correct there. The Vita had it before the launch of the PS4, but PS3 couldn't get the party chat system to work. They had memory constraints within the PS3 that wouldn't allow them to get that working. But PS4 came out, party chat came out, and it's fundamentally a good party chat system. Xbox One launches, and this is going back to the original Xbox, to the Xbox One launch. They completely fucked over the parties. Sorry to use a bit of French there, but they absolutely screwed them over. Now just seems to be something that Microsoft keep doing, even today. And I don't know if this is the same in America, because America, apparently the Xbox is the better online system, but it's not in the UK. The online system for Xbox sucks balls in the UK. We get a lot of disconnects. You're lucky to stay in the party for maybe 10 minutes before one of you either mutes automatically by accident and you have to drop out and rejoin. You have problems with echoing through headsets. Now, this is the funny thing, you can use those exact same headsets on the PS4 and you don't get that echoing problem. But yet, if you have it on the Xbox, and this is something me and my friends, my online friends, that we've discussed, we've talked about, we all seem to agree that we get the same problems from the Xbox that we don't seem to get when we're playing on PS4. Trying to join a multiplayer game on Xbox can be a task in itself sometimes. You can quickly press the PlayStation button on your controller, go to where if you're in a party and join from there. It's usually pretty simple. Some games are a little bit trickier than others, but on most part it's a fairly simple process. So Microsoft is a software company. If they can't get their fundamentals correct, right, running properly, usability of their software, where does that leave their hardware? And I think we're seeing it now. We're seeing that we've got great media men at the front of Xbox, great showmen that come out and they say they're going to do this, they're going to do that, it's going to be fantastic. You just wait until we show you what we're going to do. You're going to be impressed. You're going to love what we do. And yet, when they do show us what they're doing, it's less than impressive. In fact, it's a disappointment. It's shameful to believe you led up this garden path, believing you're going into a wonderful secret garden full of like roses and beautiful flowers and a pond, and you walk up the garden path with them, and you get there, it's a load of brambles, everything there's half dying, the pond's got a hole in it, there's a flopping fish in the middle of it dying. That's how it feels. That is how it actually feels. That's happening with the Xbox Series consoles, and it's such a shame to watch this console die in the way that Microsoft hasn't just died. Microsoft has killed it. And although they keep saying no, we're very much in support of our console system, our ecosystem, of our gamers, they're killing their console. And they're doing it, and I believe they could be doing this on purpose. They want to push you to PC. If you're a console gamer, Microsoft is saying, don't buy a console, buy a PC, where we can nickel and dime you with our £100 Windows 10, with our 1,000 updates a day, where we can get you can join our Game Pass on PC. This is the whole point about Game Pass being PC and Xbox. They want to falter the Xbox. They don't want the Xbox to be as good or better than PC in gaming, which, if it's 12 teraflops, there's only 1% of PC users out there that have a more than 12 teraflop PC machine. 1%. So you're now the 99% stronger if you've got a 12 teraflop console. But this console doesn't seem like it's 12 teraflops. Well, we don't even know, do we? Because they haven't even shown us anything on the console. Yet Sony's so-called much weaker console is showing us stuff that's beautifully polished, looks fantastic, the lighting looks really good. You've got jump cuts all over the world with looks like instantaneous or near instantaneous loading. I believe if you take Ratchet and Clank as an example, it wasn't Ratchet and Clank, is it? Yes, it is Ratchet and Clank. But when they're jumping between the worlds in their little video at the start, it takes roughly 1.5 seconds from leaving one world, going through a bit of a transition, a graphical transition, and coming out the other side. And that's loading every asset in that game world. Well, every asset that you should be able to see within that game world. Animations, physics, sorry, I forget what they're called. But anyway, it's loading in the game world. It's loading in all the lighting, the textures. That's the one I was trying to think. It's loading all those in 1.5 seconds. You know, we wait at the minute. If you've got a copy of Grand Theft Auto 5, you're waiting roughly 1.5 minutes for that game to load. That sort of level of detail in. And mostly any AAA game now takes at least 30 seconds more, sometimes up to a minute, to load the initial game in. So you get this thing about fanboys. Now, like I said, I've owned both consoles. I'm not a fanboy of Sony, I'm not a fanboy of Microsoft. Least so nowadays. I used to be a massive Microsoft fanboy. Back in the 360 days, the OG Xbox 360 totally converted me to thinking, well, why do I need any other console? I did eventually get a PS3 in about the last year and a half of its life cycle, simply because I could pick up their exclusive games pretty cheap, and I enjoyed what I played, and the only reason I didn't play it more was because of the party chat was missing. And when I come online and play the games, I like to enjoy the party chat system. You know, with the group of friends that I've been with for years and years. So, where does this leave the future of gaming, console gaming? Now, there's still hope for Xbox Series X, but it's not the next year, it's not release date. I believe in about 2 years' time, if Microsoft stick at it, in about 2 years' time it could become a really, really good console. But I think it's going to take as long as that. It's going to take 2 years, and that's making sure that Microsoft do all the right things, that their companies that they've acquired, their developers, their game companies that they've acquired, actually figure out how to produce content on their machine that is as worthy and is as good as what Sony are doing or better than what Sony are doing on their machine. But it's a big if, it's a big but. I hope so, I really hope so. You know, the more game consoles with quality good software we have, the better. I mean, I don't own a Nintendo Switch, but I know for a fact that the Nintendo do their thing, and the thing they do is fantastic. I mean, I found an old Nintendo DS in the house. Never really played it much. I think I bought it for my stepdaughter many years ago for Christmas. She'd obviously left it in a drawer. I found it, bought a charger, got a little cart with 200 odd games from Amazon that they do, and it all quality. I put the cart in and started playing things like Castlevania on it, and it's a really good system, and you can feel the quality of Nintendo, that sort of Nintendo feel to their games. They have a certain, when you're playing the game, there's not a jankiness about it. There's a very refinedness and a sort of refined quality to their software. It may not be the best graphics, and I suppose this is the same with the Switch, that people love with the Switch, is that it has a refinedness. It's refined, sorry, something just dropped off the table. It has a refined quality to it. And that's what Sony are also doing with their console. Their first party stuff has a very refined feel and look to their games. But the Xbox games are just completely lacking this refinedness. They just don't seem to be getting that first party quality under their belt. I think maybe I would give the quality thing to the quality belt maybe to a game like Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will o' the Wisp. That does have a lovely quality feel to it. It has a refinement to it. But it's I think the platform market, because it's a platform game, it's a very niche market. Years ago it was the fundamentals of two-dimensional video games, the platformer. But I think nowadays people are looking for more the 3D environments. That is just something that the younger generation's grown up with. So because of that niche, it doesn't really get as much of the notoriety or as much of the love that it deserves. I mean, you look at Nintendo, go back to Nintendo Mario is now a 3D game. It's not a 2D game. Even though I think Paper Mario has just come out, again it's a 3D environment. So Nintendo have fundamentally gone from Mario's two-dimensional world to their three-dimensional world. I know they revisited Mario Maker and that type of thing, but they've moved on. They understand the advancement that people want the three-dimensional games. They have a more of an immersive effect within those worlds. So the three-dimensional video game is where Microsoft has been really lacking. And we've got these great announcements of these games coming out, and some of them I'm excited, especially for Avowed, that looks like a sort of Skyrim type game, and who doesn't love Skyrim? I think I've played and completed it 3 times on 3 different systems. I mean, the last one I platinumed was in VR, so I've done it, I've 1000G'd it on Xbox 360, I played somewhat of it on PS3, and I think I played it the reworked or remastered edition on PS4, but I went back and platinumed it in VR on PS4 VR. So, you know, it's a game that keeps on giving, but there's only so much. We'll go and keep playing that game. So we're missing, and going back to Avowed, so that's why I'm really looking forward, because it almost looks like it could be a Skyrim-esque or that sort of third-dimensional, first-person, lived-in world RPG, which, as much as we all love Elder Scrolls, they're very slow on giving us new content. You've got the Elder Scrolls Online, but I think that's, for some people, that isn't what they're looking for. They're looking for that single player, or maybe a bit of co-op. They don't mind a bit of co-op, but mostly a single player, open world, first person role-playing game that allows you to sit back and immerse yourself within that world. The problem with a mass multiplayer online version of Elder Scrolls is there's always that sort of randomness of someone else doing something in front of you or doing something, you're in a mission and someone else is there that you don't know and they're doing some weird stuff, and it breaks the immersion of your story, of your private, intimate story within the 3D world. So yeah, so I don't want to be too harsh on the Series X, because again, we don't know what it is, what it can do, what it's capable of, and I don't think anyone knows, and least of all, I don't think Microsoft knows what their console can do. Although they've promised us that we'd have a drop the mic conference, I really do think it was more like drop the ball conference. And it's a sad state of affairs, because the fanboy wars are all at it now, because some people just don't help themselves, but the Xbox was saying, yeah, power of the X, 12 taps, we're going to give it to you, X going to give it to you, and the Sony boys are like, well, okay, you know, okay, so our system is weaker, but we've got fantastic games, you can't deny that, and Microsoft's probably going to fuck it up. Microsoft look like they're fucking it up. So now all the Xbox are going on the defensive. Oh, it's on PC. Oh, yeah, it's not a proper build. It's an old build. And that's not an excuse, though, is it really? What, like, you may use it as a fanboy as an excuse, but Microsoft shouldn't be using that as their excuse. There's absolutely no reason why their so-called Series X showcase had no Series X content. All it was a bunch of game reveals and a big thumbs up for Game Pass as a service of value, which again, fundamentally, I believe in the long run will regret games as a service, the Game Pass. And although I think it's brilliant value, and everyone thinks it's brilliant value for money, but I think it undermines and undervalues the creativity of the video game franchise. I think in 5, 7, maybe a bit longer years from now, it could be closer, it could be 3 years from now, we'll look back and we'll say, that Games Pass, that ruined video games. And that could be the case. I think Sony are doing the right thing with their PlayStation Now, in that they hold the newer, brand new content away from it. So you're kind of getting a retro-esque content that you then get eat as much as you like, but you're not eating the latest creations. If you want the latest creations for up to a year or 2 years, then you pay for them. You pay for them initially full price. You wait 5 or 6 weeks. You then get them for about 20%, 30% off. Wait another few months. You can sort of then start buying them half price. And only once they've gone below that sort of half price mark, on sale half price mark, then they sort of think, okay, now it's done its monetary value as far as people wanted to spend money for it. So we either put it at 20% of what the value of its original release was. Instead of a 60 quid game, it's now a 15 quid game. Well, you may as well have it on a service like PlayStation Now. But of course, Microsoft, wanting to be the big boys in the game, are saying, oh, all our new games are coming out on Game Pass. This is what we do. We do Game Pass. All our brand new games, you don't buy them, we put them on Game Pass. And of course, for the first batch of games that are coming to Game Pass from first party Microsoft Studios, they're going to be initially very good, very polished. But as time goes on, I believe that polish will diminish. And as time goes on further and further, I think we'll end up with more that looks like indie games from their first party studios, simply down to time constraints and the insatiable hunger for the consumer to want to consume more, and not being able to feed that hunger from Microsoft. You know, they want more content for Halo, they want more content for Gears, they want more content for Forza Horizon, and they want more content not after the game is released, but within a month after the game is released. Not, you know, you could play Gears of War 5. It's got an online mode. You could play that 6-8 months before maybe you start getting bored. I mean, most people only play it in 1 or 2 months. But you could end up at a point with Game Pass where people literally, the month after they've played a game, they're thinking, right, well, I've done everything in that game. I've played all the online content. I've had so many games of it. I want more now. I want a new map. I want a set of new guns. And for companies to keep up, they'll end up having to just basically go with a games as service for all their games. So Gears of War, Halo, Forza, will all end up being games as service games where they can release weekly missions updates, monthly content updates, and maybe every quarter they do a slightly larger update, but nothing substantial, not a whole new game. You just get the same game and you play it for the rest of your life, aka Destiny, which I've put a lot of hours into Destiny personally. I've put 3,000 or 4,000 hours into the game like Destiny, but I think the recent jump to the Game Pass put me off. It was such small bite-sized pieces of content, but I just couldn't sustain my thirst and hunger for that game on that. It just wasn't enough of a meal. So I'm very disappointed with Microsoft Xbox. On paper it should be a fantastic system with a great lineup of games, and yet what do we get? Nothing. Really, we don't get anything that we can lay down and say, and point your finger at and say, that's why I buy an Xbox, that's why I need a Series X. Nothing, absolutely nothing. At this point I may as well drop £600 or £700 on a PC, and although the PC won't have as many teraflops or be as powerful, I'll be able to play games the way I want to, not the way they're telling me to, and still use Game Pass. I've priced up a modern AMD 3600 6-core 12-thread CPU with a RX 580 that will allow you to do 1080p, high frame rates, more than 60, ultra in all AAA games that are available at the moment. And that's fine. You can drop the settings down and probably get 120 frames out of some of the games out at the moment. Especially some of the more free-to-play based games like Fortnite or Apex Legends, etc. Even a game like Destiny, I believe, would play at 1080p at around 100 plus frames per second. So, and that's 600 quid. Well, these new consoles could come out, they could be up to that. So it really does make me think that Microsoft Xbox Series X is no longer a console on my radar. I really hope in 2 years' time they can change that around, that they can show, maybe turn in a slightly different direction. Maybe Game Pass isn't the be all and end all to save the Xbox. But if I was an Xbox fanboy, I would seriously, if I was you, I would seriously think about saving up your money. If Xbox is the way you want to go, and save, maybe not spend £500 or more on an Xbox Series X, but save up that money and get yourself a PC, and in 2 or 3 years time just upgrade the graphics card. The CPUs nowadays, they're on diminishing returns anyway. I think anything more than a 6-core 12 thread or 8-core 16 thread AMD, which you can pick up between £150 to £300 depending on which one you want. CPUs aren't really going to get too much better for a long time in the future. We're at the end of what is called Moore's Law, and it's diminishing returns. Computers can't get, they will get faster, they just can't get faster as quick as they have been doing over the last 30-40 years, until the whole infrastructure that runs a computer changes, but that's a different story. So this is the end of my little Xbox rant video. I just really do think Microsoft really do need to do better. They've got another conference coming out in August, and I just hope maybe they relay some of the fears, some of the problems, a lot of the problems actually. There's too many problems, but I just hope they can do better. I really do hope that their developers, all these game studios that have been hiding away, can actually show off something that can even keep up with what Sony are doing with their stuff. Because at this point, owning both consoles is fine, but I played PlayStation a bit more. But at this point, I kind of feel sorry for the big Xbox fans, and I can see why they're having a go and saying, oh, you're only getting a DLC for Spider-Man, and just grasping at straws that are like anything to get their one over, because they haven't got anything they can hold up and say, this is why we are the champions, this is our silverware, this is our medal, this is our trophy. They've got nothing, and it's such a shame, because they should have something. They should be able to say, look at Gears of War 6, it's phenomenal, it runs at 4K, it runs at 120 frames a second, it's got excellent animations, maybe I'm just getting a bit too far, but it's 4K, it's 60, it has a diverse open world, it has real NPCs that have good AI, it has a city where you can go in and out of every room, you can shoot a hole through the wall and get out of the rooms that way into the street, you can drive a car down but there's nothing like that, and there won't be anything like that, and that's just a shame that they haven't got a trophy game. They've got no trophy games, you know. Anyway, I've got to end this rant soon, because I'm just going to be banging on, and this will turn into an hour-long rant about Xbox Series X. But Microsoft, do yourselves a favour, sort your shit out, for fuck's sake.